Fertility declines are making headlines globally. From China, the Republic of Korea and Japan, to Canada, the United States and beyond, both developed and developing countries are grappling with sharply declining birth rates. A recent report by the UN Population Fund reveals that the real fertility crisis, however, facing the world is not underpopulation, but a crisis of reproductive agency. The report finds that 1 in 5 people around the world are unable to have the number of children they would want. This isn't due to a lack of desire for parenthood, but rather the soaring costs of raising children, job insecurity, housing challenges, concerns over the state of the world, and the lack of a suitable partner. Why are so many young people unable to fulfill their family goals? How to empower young people to make informed, responsible decisions about the number, timing and spacing of their children? What role should society play? I had an exclusive interview with Dr. Natalia Kanem, UNFPA Executive Director. Let's take a listen. Dr. Kanem, thank you so much for joining us, and it's a great honor to have you on our show. I understand last time you were in China was 2019.
Yes.
It's I don't know, a lifetime ago.
So much has happened.
Yeah. What was your first impression this time upon landing?
Well, first of all, the new airport is fantastic.
Daxing.
Yes, it's really impressive. And when you see it from the air, and of course we've been reading about it, so it was nice to be here. And I have to say that one of my first impressions was the blue sky. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And in my meetings, I'm focusing always on women and young people. Mm-hmm. So we've come a long way in those 6 years in terms of the pace of interest in some of the issues that UNFPA addresses.
Would you like to give some examples? Because we don't hear so much, right, about what the Population Fund is doing here with China. Well, we say it's one of the most populous countries in the world now.
Yes, it's true. Well, the UNFPA has been working with China since 40 years ago. And initially, our concern was particularly for women in rural areas. We've worked very closely with government in terms of trying to improve the situation when it comes to childbirth in particular, and also to help young people navigate their adolescence safely. For the upcoming period, we're working closely on projecting what should the next phase of UNFPA programming be. And you'll be interested to know that population dynamics is one of the reasons. And China has a wonderful opportunity because your society is setting the pace when it comes to older people living longer, hopefully happy, healthy, older age.
Yeah. Well, that is almost getting on a personal level because while taking care of my parents these days very intensively, I found the situation to be real and really challenging as well. The hospitals are very full and lots of people needing care. So indeed, it's a big challenge. But let's talk about the priority for the fund, which is fertility, I understand, because you just released a 2025 State of the World Population Report. It finds that 1 in 5 people globally expects not to have the number of children they desire. And some of the key drivers include the cost of parenthood, job insecurity, housing, concerns over the state of the world, and the lack of a suitable partner. So help us understand a bit more about exactly what is the state of the world's population.
Our State of World Population Report is called the real fertility crisis because always we have to consider the individual, the couple. What do they see as ideal? So we went around the world and we interviewed over 14,000 people and asked them, did you have the number of children that you wished? And if you want to have a child or more, what would help you to make that decision? And just as you've said, we found that financial constraints were very much on young people's minds, and also the ability to find the right partner at the right time during your career process. So all around the
Is
world.
it because people are more picky or, or more stressed out?
In fact, it's a combination of, I would say, people being more stressed out, as you just mentioned, and this is something that we heard over and over. Many women in particular are the family caretaker for the young as well as for the older parents. And so there is a dilemma. You have to invest time, you also have to invest resources. And we've suggested that some of the things that are very encouraging when young people are debating, is this the right time for us to try to start a family? What about childcare? What about elder care? We also found, and this is one of the reasons I'm a big champion of young people have a very altruistic outlook. And some of them felt it's not fair to bring a child into the world with so much uncertainty, not just economic, but the world situation is very turbulent right now.
Yeah.
So we've tried to bring these ideas into conversation, and we hope that your listeners will also have these conversations.
Absolutely.
How can we be more supportive of families?
Yeah. Well, that's why we're doing this show, and it is fascinating. Has the trend been aggregating, be deteriorating, or is it something that is a stable situation? I mean, according to the UNFPA's observation.
The changes are dramatic. I have to say that we're living at a time in history when the world has both the most young people and the most older people than ever. And with our population now being over 8 billion, and India recently became larger in population, but we see this very interesting dynamic of young and old simultaneously. The other thing that we see is that fertility rates, the number of children that a woman typically would have to keep the population the same, would be 2 per woman per couple, right?
Yeah.
And right now, most countries are falling well below. So this is the fertility crisis that we're speaking of. All of a sudden, in grandmother's time, people had 4 or 5 children. That's no longer the case. And the ideal family size is typically 1, 2, or 3 children. So that's the discussion that we have sparked with this report.
It's quite patchy as well if you look at different parts of the world, right? For instance, it used to be developing countries see higher fertility rate and developed countries see a lower or aging society, whereas now the picture seems to be mixed, China being a very interesting example.
That dynamic is changing very rapidly, and we see that in China, for example, by the year 2050, the projection is that close to 30% of the population may be 65 and older. This is a triumph. It's wonderful to be able to live to an old age, but quality of life is also important. And we're seeing too that in parts of the Caribbean, for example, the country of Jamaica, rapidly shrinking population, fewer babies, and also more elderly people. So we have to adapt, and we have, as a human society, the United Nations really wants to help predict, think about how can we make things better, rather than feeling, left behind.
Sure. So you've been thinking hard.
Very hard.
Any success? Any proposals? Any advice?
Well, I've been thinking about this a lot, and my team here in China, as well as all around the world, has had many discussions leading up to the publication of the report. And what we see is that the concept of motherhood now really needs a lot of social support for the education of the child.
Yeah.
Very protective. We also see that in the younger generations, there is much more stress and maybe more loneliness than we would have expected. So trying to make sure that there is space for young people to be able to have, to confide in someone about what's in their heart, what is bothering them.
Yeah.
This is part of the reason that UNFPA is very encouraging of young people. One other thing that I have to mention, and this has also been very important in our Chinese cooperation, China is a leader when it comes to South-South cooperation among developing countries. And so some of the programming that UNFPA is doing here has been to the benefit of ending death during childbirth. You know, when many babies die after being born, there's pressure on couples to have many more children.
Right.
But eventually, we really hope that no mother will die while giving life, and China's support is very important in countries in Africa and also in Asia Pacific to, you know, bring that reality.
That's a really interesting point you're making, and I think that's a point that maybe not a lot of people in the world have come to realize. They know China had tremendous socioeconomic development, but to which point in terms of population? And some of the figures that I have, for instance, over the past 45 years, China's mortality rate, if I'm using the
Yes,
right word, dropped from over 100 out of 100,000 to some 15
Extraordinary.
out of 100,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, this is really a sign of great progress. It means that healthcare has been accessible, that women have been educated to know don't be in labor for a long time. It can damage the womb, it can also damage the chances of having the baby come out okay. And other countries are trying to catch up to that Chinese example. It's so sad for me when I visit countries where there's a very, very high maternal death rate. This is someone's mother, sister, daughter, and I think this is why we so much appreciate that cooperation with the government and the people of China.
I'm very happy to hear that. So you're talking about triangular cooperation, meaning the UNFPA partnering up with China to help some third parties or third countries. Can you give us one concrete example, for instance, how that is done, what is being done?
Oh, well, yes, and there are many wonderful examples. UNFPA is present in 151 countries of the world, and many of them are least developed countries. So in a place like Mozambique, we've been cooperating with China, leveraging resources and inviting others to join us on programs that bring family planning to the doorstep of a woman who requires it. We're also working in Pacific regions to make sure that safe birth is possible, but also to help the government offices track statistics better. Many countries really don't have the facility or the technology that you enjoy here in China, and so even counting who needs help, is the census modernized or not? These are areas of importance when you're trying to plan properly. When you plan properly, you can actually save money, you can actually reach more people at scale. So South-South and triangular cooperation is a learning exchange. It helps a developing country like China to be able to provide lessons that you've learned here. Your maternal death rate shrank, you know, hugely in the period that we're discussing, and that's what we'd like to see everywhere.
Thank you so much, Dr. Natalia Kanem, Executive
Well,
Director.
thank you too. It's been great speaking with you.
Thank you for sharing with us your insights. It's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure.
All the best.
Thank you.
With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Lu Xin. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and X using the handle Lu Xin in Beijing. On behalf of the whole team, thank you for watching. You've got The Point.